Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, we are about to start our next panel meeting on Tallinn Freedom Online Coalition event. And those out there on the internet and those out there on the coffee tables, you are most welcome to join us in the ballroom and online direct video stream. My name is Linnar Viik and I'm a lecturer at Estonian IT College, and it's an honor to be together with you here today. And let me start by giving a short reflection how the Freedom Online Conference and Coalition prepared this year's document called Tallinn Agenda for Freedom Online, which was a few hours ago adopted by the members. It all started by 17 members and representatives belonging to a working group which works throughout January, February, based on the concept paper proposed to them on coming out with a standard setting, with an ambitious goal on defining, clearing, and seeing what is the horizon and landscape right now around the freedoms on the net, but also on making sure that there is a consensus document to which we can all achieve towards. March, April was dedicated to consultations, and member governments participated very actively. I know that it was very late last Friday when the full consensus, all the participants' votes, all their input was taken into account, and we got to the document which right now is publicly available for everybody on the Freedom Online Conference website, and that document is called up to be endorsed also by any other organization, institution, individual, and governments. So, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to call a panel, a distinctive members of internet community and governments participating in the discussion about freedoms online, to reflect on the proceedings of our conference, of the adopted text. And I would like to call to the stage Dunja Mijatovic, representative of Freedom on the Media from OSCE, Urmas Paet, Minister of Foreign Affairs from Estonia, Jorge Soto Moreno, Deputy General Director of Civic Innovation from Mexican Coordination of the National Digital Strategy, and Jun Shimi, Ambassador in charge of UN Affairs and Ambassador in charge of Cyber Policy, Japan, Ministry of Foreign Policy Bureau. Welcome very much everybody to the stage, and without further ado, we have, and as Estonians always have, very good spirit in keeping our time and saving it for everybody, also for the discussions, debates. I would like to call you all to have in the speaking order your reflections on the proceedings of the conference, the document we prepared and called now Tallinn Agenda for Freedom Online. Dunja, please.
Thank you very much. It's wonderful to be back to Tallinn and to be back to Estonia. It's a wonderful occasion for me to have this very important discussion with so many friends and colleagues. And since I was asked by ministers to praise recommendations, of course I'm not going to do that. I'm going to give them a very hard time in order to follow the implementation of these recommendations. Recommendations as such are something that we should all endorse and welcome, but when it comes to implementing it, then we will enter a very rough road. That even countries that are members of this, if I can call it, elite club of promoters and countries that are actually honoring internet freedom, they also have to be aware of the fact they have problems that they need to solve even before they are trying to see the issues that are outside of this club. What I would not like to see is the recommendations having these wonderful words on paper without any results. And what I think I will use, and I will steal copyright of Rebecca McKinnon, who just said, so what are we going to do with these recommendations? And she just tweeted, government just made a set of commitments. Next year, let's give them their first report card. And I would add hashtag Mongolia, hashtag net freedom, to see what has been done in this period and how the recommendations are reflecting related to our online freedom. Another issue that I would just add is part of the recommendation that I think is extremely important nowadays. We mentioned what's happening in Ukraine and how important is our freedom in general, offline and online. And what I would like to emphasize is a part saying what the countries that are members of Internet Online Coalition said, that they will collectively condemn through diplomatic channels, public statements, and other means violation and abuses of human rights and fundamental freedoms online as they occur in different countries throughout the world. I would only add one thing here and one sentence here, including the countries that are members of coalition.
Thank you, Dunja. If I may, and we have a second for a question, your call upon having a report card, because right now we have in a way a standard setting, a red line standard paper commitments adopted. Is your call for having for next year's event of Freedom Online Coalition an analytical report on how member states have been achieving those goals? Is that correct?
In a way it is, but I think even before these recommendations, before all these wonderful conventions, declarations, resolutions, we had our commitments in our universal documents that are existing. And there are so many countries, unfortunately, even with that, failing to honor and to value these commitments that are all voluntarily agreed upon. The recommendations are important in order to raise the awareness, once again, how important it is to preserve those rights and those freedoms offline and online, and to say that they are the same in our ordinary life and also when we engage in cyberspace. So a report card and calling countries to be accountable and transparent is just an additional push, and I think it's a very noble cause and very important recommendations coming for countries that are freedom-loving countries.
But once again, we are very thankful that you, as non-member of Freedom Online Coalition, but an international organization, have already set out your commitment to observe what we, as a members of coalition, are doing in regards to implement our promises.
And to name and to shame if they are not doing the right thing.
Thank you so much. We would move on now to Minister of Foreign Affairs, Mr. Urmas Paet. First of all, congratulations to Chairman on achieving the consensus and adoption of the Tallinn Agenda for Freedom Online. What are your immediate thoughts after probably 2 hours of celebrating already that achievement so far?
Yeah, thank you very much, but I hope we can congratulate all of us, because it's not only up to us here in Estonia, but all our good partners from NGOs, from business sector and from other governments, which invested a lot to achieve the results, consensus-based Tallinn Agenda. And well, what concerns the implementation side of this agenda, then, well, this morning already I got some heavy criticism from one of Estonian journalists, and the question was why Estonia is on 2nd place on internet freedom ranking list. Why not the 1st? So that, well, we take really seriously all what is in Tallinn Agenda and also the implementation side of it. But I just maybe wanted to to name a couple of things or some points in the recommendations or in Tallinn agenda, which I still think it's needed to repeat, because we all know that the time at the moment is really turbulent from security point of view, also what concerns human rights issues, offline, online. Unfortunately, generally in the world, I don't think that the things at the moment are, well, getting better. We see more and more conflict, we see more and more harassment also in the internet by some state authorities. So that's why I think that to get also international attention these days to our meeting and to our Tallinn agenda and recommendations is really appropriate. It's important understanding that the internet is a driving force in accelerating also progress towards development in its various forms. So that we, of course, and also all members of our online coalition said that e-government and all the e-services can play and should play important role what concerns also the fight against corruption and strengthening rule of law and all this stuff, because then all the information government has is and must be accessible to everybody, so that all governments have paid special attention to this issue. Then everybody also should promote the free flow of information in the global internet, which also means that internet should never become fragmentized, either nationalized, so that internet is, as we all know, success story thanks to its global nature. And well, we all are also particularly concerned with the growing restrictions, as I said, which may have a negative impact also on human rights, not only online, but also offline. So we call on governments also to stop repressive measures utilized to restrict freedom of expression online, which also leads directly to the violation of human rights. All stakeholders have to ensure the highest possible level transparency in their activities and work on preserving and strengthening the multi-stakeholder model of internet governance. Free internet being a powerful tool for the development is also fostering innovation and economic growth. Private sector, as one of the stakeholders, has a growing responsibility also in protecting human rights and fundamental freedoms online in the age of data-driven economies. FOC also supports the programs, initiatives, and technologies which promote and protect human rights and fundamental freedoms online, and also we recommend other stakeholders to join these efforts, and so on and so on. But one of the results also of our today's meeting was that it's really needed that we will and should get more members to our coalition. Moldova and Japan are fresh new members, but of course we'd like to also see more countries joining us from Latin America, from Africa, from Asia, so that these values and these understandings also through the membership in our coalition also will spread on or in every corner of the world. But I completely agree, of course. Implementation side is absolute must, and it is everyday's work, as well. Human rights, we all know, are universal, offline and also in online. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Minister. The same report you were reflecting earlier, independent think tank Freedom House published Freedom on the Net, where Estonia, after 2 years of being #1 on the world on freedoms on the net, was ranked #2 last year, which is, well, we have to congratulate from our side Iceland on such a great achievement on becoming now #1 on freedom online, and we are happy to attempt to get closer to their level. We see over last couple of years actually decline on freedoms online all over the world. As you said also, there are more conflicts, more harassment on the net. And we don't see the decline in terms of the freedoms online only in the countries we might suspect it to be a kind of standard norm of violating user rights. But we have seen it also in the group of countries which belong to the Freedom Online coalition. When you talk to your colleagues, when you talk to other countries, how strong is, in your opinion, their commitment and feeling and concern about the global and but also the individual decline in freedoms online?
The concern is there, but unfortunately not always the practices are in the same line. And that means that we, well, have to invest into this issue all the time, not just once a year when we have this wonderful meeting, but every day. And it is, and I hope it will be more and more issue for also Human Rights Council of the United Nations, all other regional or international organizations dealing with human rights, so that be it Council of Europe, be it OSCE, be it other formats which deal with human rights, that they also deep inside, seriously understand that human rights in online is natural part of general human rights. I still think that here is also some space to develop, to get natural understanding even in these international organizations which have to deal with human rights, that human rights in online is natural part of general human rights.
Thank you, Mr. Minister. Jorge Soto Moreno, from looking from the Mexican perspective, a very big country. How do you reflect at the moment the outcome, the Tallinn agenda for freedom online, and also the overall trends in freedoms on the net from your perspective?
Thank you very much. Mexico is a very new democracy as well. We can say that our democracy, election democracy, is less than 15 years old. And the internet has had a democratization effect in the country as well. It's not only has opened up a new space for citizens to communicate in a much more horizontal way and empower themselves, but also for governments to participate and understand real citizens' needs. We have never experienced so many dramatic changes that are disrupting the way we communicate, the way we transport, the way we educate, the way we have our relations. But politics has basically stayed the same for the last 100 years. We are 21st century citizens trying to communicate with 20th century institutions that are underpinned by 19th century processes. We live in revolutionary times, and institutions are under stress as those born in a 24/7 online world are becoming more political. And today, people, they have better access to information and tools to connect, which also translates into better expectations, better health, better security, no corruption. And nothing grows faster than expectations. That is why microscopic or homeopathic changes are not enough. We need to really reframe and rethink the structures, and I believe these commitments of the Tallinn Agenda are the basic framework for that. How can we continue talking about democracy in countries like Mexico or Latin America or other places when the least trusted class is sometimes the political class? If technology is amplifying the voice of the citizens, but not the government's ability to listen, then we're taking the risk of having a government that is disconnected from its citizenship and not leveraging civic innovation and the civic ideas that can come from their citizens in the resolution of the major social problems. Today, more than ever, we need a 21st century government that defends and expands the basic rights for a free and open internet for all. A 21st century government that understands the internet as an enabler to impact positively on education, on health, on security, on economy, and the free flow of ideas and information, and most importantly, as a new space where we can rethink the relationship between citizens and their governments. A new relationship that thinks in networks, just as the internet, and not as in hierarchies, as the 20th century. That is why it is very important to guarantee, to fight, and to endorse the rights and responsibilities of the Italian agenda. Sometimes these battles will be fought online and in the streets, sometimes will be fought internally, but we cannot permit that regulations that damage the very principle of a free, open, and horizontal internet be approved. And as it has been said before, security shouldn't be used as an excuse to limit free expression. In Mexico, we see the ICTs as an enabler to fight corruption, to enhance transparency and accountability, and to increase trust in the government and to spark innovation and entrepreneurship. To successfully achieve that, we created a series of strategies led by the National Digital Strategy inside the President's office that are putting the citizen at the center, the central hub for better governance. For example, just last month, we crowdsourced our open data national policy. It was the first time that a policy was crowdsourced in the entire history of Mexico. So everything we're doing has a focus on the real needs of the citizens. It helps people to solve problems. It fosters civic innovation and build communities. The internet is so central to our economy, to our democracy and our future in general, that we cannot lose the war for the soul of the internet. If that happens, we will all lose something much greater. That is why the endorsement, adoption, and implementation of these recommendations is crucial as well for Mexico's development. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Jorge Soto. You said so well that the internet has been an amplifier for citizens' voices, but in many cases governments don't listen to that. It recalls me an Estonian school children joke about politicians, that politicians and government, they are like Lego minifigures. Lego minifigures, they have eyes and nose and ears, but they never, and mouth, but they never have ears. And it is a school children joke, and they rant on. What should we do? What could be done in order to make sure that the tools in hands of civic organizations, citizens, and while they are also committed towards an innovation and improvement of the governments, could be listened by government, and it's not a one-way communication where civic organizations are talking about their agenda and government is talking about their agenda, but how to make sure that they meet and the discussion is established. Do you have some good examples from Mexico?
I believe that today's governments, in order to demonstrate more power, they don't need to have more guns or more weapons. They need to have more trust in their citizens. So not listening to the tools, not listening to the conversation that is already happening in the internet, does not mean that the conversation will disappear. It only means that it will find new ways and eventually will be worse not to be in these conversations. In Mexico, for example, mainly in the north of Mexico, we're seeing how the entire conversation around security situations are more in a much more horizontal way, and how citizens are creating these trust networks where they are alerting themselves about security situations in their city, and they are communicating whether they can go out to the movies or not. And they are trusting more these very horizontal networks much more than the official media outlets or the government information. And the government is outside of that communication. The citizens have created these trusted networks, and the government is outside of this conversation. And if that continues to happen, then we will not be able to fix the concept of governance.
Thank you so much. I'm very glad to have Ambassador Jun Shimi with us today. First of all, welcome to the Freedom Online Coalition as a new member, and thank you, of course, very much for contributing already while preparing the Tallinn agenda for Freedom Online and contributing to the overall process. What are your reflections on the process so far, and what are your expectations out of Freedom Online Coalition?
Thank you very much. And first of all, just as you said, that just 3 days ago, and Freedom Online members accepted Japan to be a new member. So I'm here the first Japanese official participating to the Freedom Online meeting. So, and thank you very much. And from a Japanese point of view, already my previous speakers mentioned, I think that one of the most important point to be a member of this Freedom Online coalition is that Freedom Online is not only the the meeting of the European or American and so on. We should, in a sense, globalize this coalition, not only European but also the South American and Asian, and actually Asia, Mongolia and Japan are only two official government members of the coalition. So as you know very well, the internet and the cyberspace is borderless, and if we solidify our coalition among us, if other members, especially developing countries, out of the coalition or nothing to do with freedom and so on, there's a big security hole. So in this regard, while we are discussing offline, online, but in a sense, we still have a very classic North and the South problem or security hole problem in freedom on the online issue. So in this regard, how to invite and take the developing countries, the other countries than Europe to this initiative is vitally important for us as a kind of then Japan as a new member of the coalition, we want to provide a humble contribution on this issue, especially with Asian members. Another point, if you allow me to add, is that in the recommendation, there's a reference to the sharing the best practice of the human rights and freedom on the coalition issues. In this regard, on this occasion, I want to introduce one thing. As you may know, 3 years ago, we had a big earthquake in Japan. More than 10,000 people passed away by tsunami and earthquake. But at that time, internet, websites, and Twitters, Facebook, and other social network services played a very important role in locating families and friends and discovering their safety. And also internet played a very important role in helping earthquake victims and supporting recovery efforts since information was gathered quickly, efficiently, and systematically among us. And of course, there are many volunteers, not only Japanese volunteers, but also foreign volunteers. They are united. They share the information. They cooperated, coordinated through the social media. That's a very big power of the internet and social networking. And what I want to stress is that, of course, in that process, there are the false rumors, disinformations, and so on. But we think what's important, we should not control information. We should not, government should not manipulate information trying to avoid the disinformation and false rumors. What is important that the people should be smart and wise enough to use this skill and this internet in the case of the natural disaster and crisis. So I think that this is a very important our bitter but experience at the earthquake. Then we want to share that information with you because natural disaster is the other people. It happens anywhere for anyone in the world. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Ambassador Shimi, for sharing also the experience of the tragedy and how that the access to the technology and also sharing the information could benefit and contribute also the victim families, but also the government in working towards rescuing and solving the problem. As a new member of the coalition, you also started by saying that the coalition is not an European issue. It should not be elite. In your opinion, is this realistic to have Freedom Online coalition consisting of the majority of the countries worldwide, that we can say that in reasonable time frame there are 100+ countries who have said that, well, we are members of Freedom Online Coalition, or rather would say that this is a norm. This is a norm, and we don't need Freedom Online Coalition to promote those values, because this is a norm for us, and we don't gather together to talk about the norm every day.
Thank you very much. That's a very good question. And of course, and in order to disseminate and expand this network of the coalition, one idea is that we continue to, well, Japan now becomes a member, but we continue to increase the number of this coalition, Freedom Online Coalition. Of course, it's up to you. But if we have too many members, just as you said, I had been working in New York for the United Nations. In the United Nations, there are 193 member countries. In that sense, people say that we cannot decide anything as the 193 countries. So we have to consider the merit and the demerit of the site. And of course, and now all the members of this coalition consist of the country and the people believing in the freedom of democracy and so on. And if we expand too hectically the number of the coalition, maybe we cannot integrate and our discussion on the issues. So maybe we are a newcomer. Japan is a newcomer, so maybe we should not too vocal, but maybe we should be a step-by-step approach to increase the number of the coalition. But with doing that, we can develop and strengthen our dissemination and cooperation with a non-member of the coalition. For example, next month, Japan newly tried to have a new dialogue with the ASEAN members on the cyber crimes. In such occasion, and actually I will visit Singapore to discuss on the cyber crime issue with all the 12 ASEAN members. This is the first time that Japan and ASEAN discuss on the cyber issue. In such occasion, definitely, based on today's and tomorrow's experience, I will explain them about this meeting and also the importance of the freedom and democracy in the cyberspace. So just like that, not necessarily who is a member of the United Nations to be, the members of the coalition, but each member of the coalition now, we can explain to the non-members the importance of the freedom and the democracy in the cyberspace.
Thank you so much, Ambassador. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, we had our first reflections on the recently adopted Tallinn Agenda for Freedom Online, and please join me in hands with thanking our host and also the panelist. We are about to start right now, without any breaks, next sessions. One of them will take place here and two in other rooms. And let me also remind you about one envelope you had in your conference materials that included digital ID test kit. That's a small, miraculous device, computer actually, that can act as the crucial part of making internet not only free, but also secure. All about freedom and security on the net combined together and not excluding each other. Thank you once again, and well, I'm so happy to give over the mic to the moderator of our next panel.